Good day and welcome, America and beyond. I'm Tom Donahue for Truth Matters and Tom Donahue Report. So glad you can be with us. Well, we had such an amazing week leading up to July 4th, Independence Day, America 250. Trump had his difficulties with his great American state fair. I'm not sure what state he's referring to because he was in D.C., District of Columbia, District of Criminals, and the swamp, the algae swamp that Trump has created. And even though there may have been some minor vandalism, the algae didn't spring from any human except for his handiwork with his no-bid contractors and their incompetence and squandering taxpayer money. But Trump has his own political swamp. It just, to some degree, replaced the Biden, Obama, Clinton, Bush swamp, but not all that different, except for the level of competency, surprisingly, is much lower. And it's a new political class of swamp. And his deep state is, I guess you could almost call it the dark state because of the way things are operating. And so this great American state fair and the fireworks and the festivities, now the weather did not cooperate, and it wasn't just in D.C. I mean, Philadelphia, we hit 102 degrees, and the heat factor was in the 110 plus range. And so up and down the eastern seaboard, we were hit with not only high heat, humidity, thunderstorms, lightning. So I can't blame it all on Trump. But most people that attended there were very displeased with the setup. Matter of fact, there was no air conditioning in any of the booth setups. It was sparsely attended, even though Trump, again, had to inflate the numbers. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I call it the rump, the royal rump. Trump is really ballooned up, bloated. He could almost be an inflatable. And you remember all the remarks that Trump has made about people that are heavy, overweight, obese. You're an obese slob now. Now, is it medically related? Is it dietarily related? I don't completely know, but there's no doubt that that is a very heavy-set man. He's almost in the range of William Howard Taft, the 27th president. But anyway, so much for his royal rump and his bloated physique. And again, I would not be critiquing his physique except for the fact that there are health concerns, number one. Number two is that he has spent his entire life criticizing fellow heavyweights. And we're not talking about heavyweight boxers or wrestlers. We're talking about his cruel comments, especially relating to women that have a few extra pounds. So this hefty rump of a buffoon is not looking so good, okay? But anyway, Philadelphia, New York, Boston, various other venues from big cities, medium cities, small towns and county fairs and neighborhood gatherings. It was spectacular from what I could see. It's just that Trump's production was a complete abysmal failure, in my view, from what I viewed, from what I read. But if you watch Fox News, everything's wonderful, everything's great, everything's just perfect, except if you were to read their private text messages, like at the time that they were under court scrutiny relating to the legal filings of the computer software companies that were tallying votes, whether it be Dominion or Smartmatic. And I've covered that in detail. But they never addressed their private messaging and concerns that were contradictory to what they were saying on the air to cater to the MAGA base that was tuning into Fox News. But again, there's nothing unusual about hypocrisy when it comes to politics and media. Well, let me get back to something I think was positive, and that was my last episode, last week's edition, America 250, and my tribute to the heroics, the sacrifices, and the intellectual brilliance of our founding fathers, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, in particular, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, my heroes, and the two foremost, in my view, founding fathers that contributed so mightily to those sacred documents. And I have to say that beyond just the research and the presentation, I had some fun with this because I had taken a couple selfies, which I rarely do, when I was downtown around the National Constitution Center, the Liberty Bell, and Independence Hall. And they weren't professionally taken. I mean, I just I was having some fun, and I didn't know that I might actually use them. I mean, if I thought I was going to do something of this nature, I would have spent a little extra time taking those photos. But the one that was most usable, I was hoping to use my snapshot of my selfie that included Independence Hall, but I couldn't get it to format with Podomatic and my upload to the podcast system. So I had to go with the Liberty Bell in the background. So that's what that is. And it was taken just within the last few months. So it came in a really timely way. And then Living in America, James Brown, I purchased and downloaded that song, which I have used in my prior iterations of my show over the years, right around these patriotic holidays. And so I decided to play that. And I just felt like it was celebratory. It was uplifting. And it was just, I felt really good about using Living in America, James Brown tune. So I hope that you will share this very unique, meaningful, and significant broadcast and program and podcast with others, because it goes beyond Independence Day, July 4th, and even goes beyond America 250. There's a lot of history and a lot of famous founding father quotations that I think should be shared. So I gave you some of my insights, some of my research, some of my feelings and thoughts as it related to the Declaration of Independence, America 250, the founding fathers and framers. And I hope that they were insightful and enlightening and meaningful to you. And I hope to produce more programs like that. So let's take a quick break. We will come back with more of Truth Matters, the follow-up to America 250 and the tribute right after this.
For nearly 250 years, Americans have enjoyed a level of civility and prosperity. Wicked globalist operatives threaten it all. And the chaos around us is the result of an underlying spiritual war. See through the deception and discover the root of the world's conflicts. A startling new book from the host of the Truth Seekers radio show, Soulless Society. Available on Amazon in softcover, Kindle ebook, and Audible. Visit www.soullesssocietybook.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Conspiracy Radio, the new streaming station offering shows only from this unique, compelling genre. They don't want you to know, but we do. Conspiracy Radio, formerly Patriot Radio Classics, is now streaming 24/7 with the greatest conspiracy radio programs from past and present. Political to the paranormal cover-ups, conspiracies exposed. From legendary past hosts to groundbreaking present-day popular shows. Listen 24/7 online at conspiracyradio.net or download the apps at TalkStreamLive.com. Visit conspiracyradio.net. That's conspiracyradio.net. Conspiracy Radio. Follow the evidence. Question everything. We are back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. So glad you can be with us. And this is kind of the follow-up edition to America 250, although I am going to pivot into some other news-related subjects. But I do want to mention that even the other day, I was downtown, right by Independence Hall, the Liberty Bell National Constitution Center, and I'm always wowed. The weather was cooler. Thankfully, the crowds were diminished, so it was a very peaceful journey and mission because I had to take care of some things. And I always enjoy a little bit of dining, shopping, sightseeing, but I try to avoid those massive crowds and excessive heat, so I was able to do that. And I was thinking back to that great American fair, Trump's rendering of July 4th, Independence Day, America 250, and what a colossal failure. Now, some will say, well, he gave a good speech. He didn't write the speech. Matter of fact, Trump was asked by a reporter right around Independence Day, what do you read? And he says, well, I only read things in the news about myself. What a pompous, arrogant, narcissistic creep this president happens to be. Could you imagine that you're only looking at things that relate to you? Now, granted, being the president of the United States, you want to know whether it's polling, whether it's stories that relate to the things that you're doing and the accuracy of those reports. But I would think that you would read other things. They did catch Trump during the Independence Day D.C. celebration before his speech, watching himself on Fox News that had a camera in the booth, the staging platform before he came out. So, yeah, he is fixated on the media, not just Fox News. And remember, Natalie Harp, the human printer that, the glamorous blonde, the young blonde that is so obsessed with him, even her brother is concerned. And so our friends and even the White House staff are concerned about this unusual, strange, weird relationship. Trump doesn't like the word weird, but everything about Trump and this administration is weird. You could see Melania was completely disinterested in the event. But now I'm not going to go as far as some of the social media critics and influencers and pundits that are saying that in that bag, it's a diaper bag and that she's attending to Trump beyond just the social media memes and printing out all the different stories that relate to him and his administration. But you can see he's got serious chronic health conditions. His ankles are severely swollen. He's got the scaling on the neck. He's bloated. I mean, there's no doubt that this guy is approaching the 300-pound mark. I mean, you can just see it in side-by-side pictures over the last few years versus recently. And he's the same guy that viciously attacks anyone that is supposedly overweight, especially females. But he doesn't see himself that way. But he's having presidents and leaders of other countries that are helping guide him, sort of like what Biden went through. And he seems to be disoriented. He seems to be, well, obviously sleep deprived. And his performance at the NATO summit in Turkey, I mean, even some conservatives are having to mention, although Fox does a complete media blackout, that if it were Biden and he botched a single name of a world leader, it would be wall-to-wall coverage. Trump botched several, and these were very obvious ones. I mean, he said Zelensky was Putin. He confused Iran and their attack with Japan. He called it the Islamic Republic of Japan. I mean, not even close. Like what's he thinking? Like, it wasn't like the Japanese prime minister or something Japanese was confusing him. And then Trump appears to confuse Zelensky for Putin. He said that Trump is number one on TikTok, not TikTok, which is not true, even if it were TikTok. Taylor Swift happens to be, and there are others that rank above Trump on TikTok. So, yes, a very embarrassing display, our president, Donald J. Trump. And so many enablers and propagandists and cover-up artists for Trump are excusing and shielding him from any criticism on the world stage. And it's embarrassing, not only his behavior, but it's the media that covers up for him is even more pathetic and embarrassing. Well, the so-called ceasefire and Iran begging for a deal, and that it's almost over, it's done. Well, we're in a hot war now. And Mark Levin must be salivating. And I posted an article at TalkStream Live, because I do the news headlines. And this is from the Times of Israel. It says, U.S. bracing for prolonged Iran escalation. No current push for Israeli involvement. Isn't that nice? We can have our troops and we can build up more national debt and put more funding into the coffers of the defense industry or the war industry, because now they call it the defense. They change it from Department of Defense to Department of War. So the warmongers are happy again. Bill O'Reilly says his Iraq war coverage still haunts him to this day, but pushes for Iran war escalation anyway. Back on the cheerleading for war escalation. Good job, Bill. And Graham Platner, another sexual abuser and accused rapist, drops out of the race, pushed out of the race. Good riddance, scumbag. The Nazi tattoo that he said, I didn't know what that was. And many Democrats, just like Republicans, held out to the last possible moment before jumping ship. And now we have certain Republicans that are saying, well, including Trump. Let me see if I can get the exact quotation. I mean, Trump loves defending anyone that abuses women. It's just unbelievable. And I mean, whether it's, he'll pardon them, he'll accept whatever their version is, because he's one of them. But yeah, Platner drops out, but he's still victim blaming and taking no responsibility whatsoever. But Trump actually, there's the article from Mediaite, Trump actually questions Platner's accuser. A lot of people say big falsehoods. Well, I think Trump's still stinging from the fact that the Supreme Court would not take up the E. Jean Carroll case, and a judge orders to be paid $5.8 million in the Trump sex abuse and defamation case. Trump still appeals, continues always appealing. And the U.S. Supreme Court, as I mentioned earlier, lets stand the civil verdict. So Trump wants them to readdress that. He wants to appeal. So Trump always sides with the men, just like he did with Epstein, the Trump-Epstein files. Remember, he's the million-mentioned man, mentioned more than anyone except for the two accused sex traffickers, Maxwell and Epstein. Oh, I forgot to mention, let me circle back just for a moment. Trump was reopening his pleas for the acquisition of Greenland. So he was really stirring the pot. And he said, well, Denmark doesn't really need Greenland. We do. Well, there's a lot of things that I want and I need, but I just can't go and take it. I can, but there should be consequences. And also, during this, in and around the time of the summit, Trump called on cutting off all trade with Spain. So he wants to punish anyone that did not open up bases for his war games. Well, Fox News host trash MAGA podcasters for making up stuff about the Charlie Kirk assassination. You start digging into this, and I mean, there's more questions and more oddities than even the Epstein suicide, okay? There's a massive cover-up. There's a lot of inconsistencies. There's a lot of things that boggle the mind. But Fox News says, oh, people are just making them up. So they've sided with Erica Kirk and Turning Point USA, and they're going to defend the so-called official version. Well, let's get to Don Jr. He made some comments and definitive statements also as it related to this. Remember, he's very good friends. He was good friends with Charlie Kirk. So Don Jr. tells Fox News, oh, of course, Fox News, yeah. It's cut and dried that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk amid the ongoing MAGA conspiracy theories. So we got Don Jr. and Fox News trying to protect the official version, not interested in all the facts, not interested in having a trial that will bear out all the evidence or the lack thereof, not open-minded in considering that there could have been more than one person involved in this. There could have been a cover-up and as well as a conspiracy, and that it's even possible that he's not the assassin, let alone the fact that he may not be the only person involved. Trump was praising the Iranian leaders when it looked like a deal was imminent. And now he says, we're tearing up the Iran ceasefire. Trashest scum regime leaders. They're lying guys. So you just never know what unhinged Trump's going to say or do. Oh, one more thing about Bill O'Reilly. He smugly slams struggling Americans for complaining about higher prices. Well, when you can pay out $26 million to sexual abuse, sexual assault accusers, well, I guess you have a few dollars in your pocket. The British newspaper, The Mirror, their headline was, jet-lagged Trump wakes up in a furious mood as he torches Iran, Spain, Denmark, and NATO allies. But he has a new friend in Turkey, and he's actually going against his policies in the first term. And he said if it wasn't for this summit being in Turkey, he may not have even gone because he didn't want to let down his friend in Turkey. So Trump is eyeing F-35 reversal for Turkey, but faces growing pressure ahead of that summit. Trump's handler, Levin, calls out Trump giving gifts to Turkey. Big mistake. So these are just some of the news headlines and my take and commentary and analysis. You can take it or leave it, but I want to share as much as I can in terms of my insights and my takeaways. On that note, time out, quick break, right back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. Welcome back. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters, and it surely does. And I happened to see a clip, which actually I think was a few months old, but it came up on one of the reels of Candace Owens talking about Jarad Kushner and Ivanka and this mysterious island. It became readily apparent that there's something highly suspicious and secretive going on here, even though there is unbelievable outrage. Sazan Island, S-A-Z-A-N, off of the Albania coast, and it was a former military base during the Cold War. And Jarad Kushner stated, and I saw the video of him talking about it, that he first learned about Sazan Island during a 2021 Mediterranean yacht trip with British financier Nathan Rothschild of the famous Rothschild banking family. He introduced the couple to the site and facilitated meetings with the Albanian officials. So now we know without any qualms or doubts that there is the Trump family Rothschild connection. And now they're working hand in glove with the banking financiers. And what they plan to do with this so-called resort development. Now remember, Jarad got a tremendous amount of financing, more than $2 billion from the Arab countries. This was during Trump's first term, but they wouldn't investigate because Republicans put the kibosh on that. And he's continued to siphon off more money. Jarad, the Trump brothers, the sons, and Trump himself make Joe Biden and Hunter Biden look like pikers. They look like pocket pickers, off the street. I mean, just minor players in financial deal brokering criminal schemes. That's not to excuse the Bidens and their business dealings with China and the Ukraine and other parts of the world. But the Trump family has far exceeded the Bush syndicate, anything Obama and Biden and their affiliates have done, and certainly way more than the Clintons, although his early days with his dealings in Arkansas were quite criminal, to say the least, Whitewater, etc. The only thing that the Trumps haven't done so far as we know is there's not a body count. But, that maybe I speak too soon, because the attacks coming down on Candace Owens through Trump's legal team, yes, these are lawyers that have represented Trump that are going in fierce opposition to Candace Owens and her associates, those other MAGA influencers, those other podcasters and YouTubers and social media influencers that are speaking out about Erica Kirk and her dubious and suspicious activities surrounding her deceased husband. And that Fox News, the Trump administration, and Turning Point USA have the official narrative that they do not want investigated, disrupted, challenged, questioned, period. So you're seeing that all these interlaced, interconnected, interrelated people and activities and events, the big C word, conspiracy, cover-ups, and controversies. And we are not going to lay down, roll over, and obey the Trump media, the Turning Point media, and the enforcement agencies of this Trump deep state. It is a Trump deep state, and it is a Trump algae-filled swamp that we're dealing with. And those that are still hanger-ons, that are still enablers, still defenders of this corrupt tyrant and his out-of-control agencies and his incompetence and his deranged activities on the world stage, then welcome to the insane asylum. And you are now a co-signer, and you are part of the corruption and cover-up and conspiracy. So yes, you are co-conspirators, those that continue to defend the indefensible. On that note, we'll be right back with the final segment, the final stretch upcoming. Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. Tom Donahue for best-selling Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 air purifier uses proven oxy technology that quickly destroys viruses, odors, mold, and so much more with thousands of 5-star reviews. It really does work. And I can tell you, I've used it for 8+ years. Every day. Any smell will vanish after just a few seconds with the thunderstorm being on. Odors from litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, mildew, and much more are no match for the Thunderstorm 2. The powerful thunderstorm sends out O3 molecules which seek out and destroy odors. These molecules even go behind and under furniture. Nothing can hide from the thunderstorm. Best of all, no filters ever, saving lots of money. Start enjoying your clean home again You can save $50 on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2 if you click on my link at my website. Add another unit and you'll get an additional $20 off. Each additional Thunderstorm you add to your cart while shopping, you'll get that additional $20 off. That's $70 for every additional one you place your order for. You must click on my link at my website to get these savings. Reiterate some of the major points. The Thunderstorm 2 proven oxy technology destroys viruses, odors, mold, mildew, cleans the air of allergy-causing particles so you can breathe easier again. Freshens the scent of your home. It gets rid of any odor, whether it's litter boxes, trash cans, cigarette smoke, cooking smells, and I cook with garlic, and it works. So never breathe dirty air again in your home. No filters to buy, takes up virtually no space. It plugs directly into the wall. Very quiet, nearly silent. Great for use even in your bedrooms. It's compact even for travel. If you're staying in a hotel and you know how musty and mildewy those hotel rooms can be, Tom Donahue, Eden Pure, and you go to TomDonahueReports.com, TomDonahueReports.com. It'll take you to the Eden Pure Thunderstorm 2. All the information's there. As soon as you start clicking through the shopping cart, you'll get those discounts because you're clicking on my link. Absolutely 100% endorse this and have used it for more than 8 years. These units at the regular price is quite a deal. But then you get $50 off by simply clicking on the banner, and each additional unit, you can take another $20 off per unit. So that brings the price to $59. I don't know how they do it. It's an incredible product already. Tremendous pricing. Take advantage of this by clicking on the banner, TomDonahueReports.com, Eden Pure. It's a must-have. I use it every day and completely 100% endorse it. Welcome back, Tom Donahue, Truth Matters. And I want to circle back to Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner and their multi-billion-dollar luxury resort development, Sazan Island, off the coast of Albania. And that all came into fruition by virtue of a vacationing yacht trip. And the yacht was owned by Nathan Rothschild. They call him Nat Rothschild. And Sazan is an uninhibited, ecologically sensitive island. It was a former military base. So with Kushner being a developer, and through his private equity firm, Affinity Partners, is now planning a high-end luxury resort complex in partnership with Gulf state investors, it triggered a backlash, widespread in Albania, dubbed the Flamingo Revolution over fears of environmental destruction to protected wetlands and the anger over perceived government corruption and special privileges. This meeting took place with Rothschild on the yacht in 2021. Rothschild introduced the couple to the Albanian Prime Minister, Edi Rama, initiating talks that led to their real estate development. So Rothschild met with them, vacationing on his yacht, instigated this concept, this idea that led to a meeting that he initiated and helped push along. So Ivanka describes she and Jarad, Nathan Rothschild, swimming and discovering this island, and she said it was a private island, and they thought it'd be a great idea to develop this into a luxury retreat. But the political backlash, not only from Albania and the local activists and community at large, but the U.S. lawmakers, many have said that they criticize these developers, specifically questioning whether Kushner and Trump receive special privileges due to their political connections. So this project, which is receiving major global backlash, is planned for $1.4 billion luxury mega resort. So we have an ecologically protected area. It's not a private island. We've got government ties. We've got the Rothschild family banking dynasty that does the introductions and instigates the idea. And this was a Cold War military utilized installation. And it's protected. And so right now, even the people within Albania are not having their own personal and private use because of being ecologically protected, but the government's going to hand over the keys to Ivanka Trump and Jared Kushner through Rothchild. And so talk about tone deaf. And the fact is that they feel that they can do things as even outsiders. They're not citizens, nor is Rothschild. And they're going to have special privileges bestowed to them. And for who gains by this? Only Kushner, Ivanka Trump, the Trump family, Rothschilds, and the financial investors in this private equity firm. So there are corruption investigations going on and protestations from the Albanian people, which is a good thing. Political scrutiny, which I mentioned. Environmentalists and citizens are also involved. So this plot and project that was concocted in and shrouded in secrecy is now being flaunted by Ivanka because she sees herself as part of this privileged class, not just the Epstein class, but the Rothschild class, the black nobility and royalty and majesty. And it's really quite sinister and quite shocking. But they want this luxury resort, Epstein-esque in terms of they want to control an island and the activity, and who knows what that activity may conjure in the coming months and years. So Jared Kushner's private equity firm is called Affinity Partners. He founded the Miami-based firm in 2021 and is currently managing over $6 billion in assets. We knew that in the Trump administration, the first, that he had acquired and was able to finagle $2 billion plus from the Arab Gulf states to invest in his projects. So the firm's initial capital included, as I mentioned, $2 billion anchor investment that originated largely from Saudi Arabia, alongside sovereign wealth funds from United Arab Emirates and Qatar or Qatar. Affinity focuses on investments in America, Israel, and global markets. So this Affinity Partners, and we'd have to delve deeper into who these partners are. But we have these developers, builders, and it almost reminds you of Bechtel Corporation and George Shultz. But he's now in control, they say, of over $6.2 billion in assets. Now remember when Trump praised the Saudis, and many American corporations and sports companies are involved heavily with investments and with agreements with the Saudis, that any talk of 9/11 and who funded 9/11 and who the primary hijackers were, that was squelched and was ridiculed by Trump. And so we'll never get to the bottom fully of 9/11 because of Trump's association, and major corporations and sports companies, sports leagues in the U.S. are in bed with Saudi Arabia because they pay a lot of money. They invest a lot of money. And so that's what Trump cares about. Not getting to the bottom of who attacked the United States of America and getting to the truth behind what happened in 9/11. Now, remember, Kushner is a chief advocate and has close allegiance to the state of Israel. And he's involved in so many different Middle East negotiations unofficially because he's never been through a congressional hearing. He's never been sworn in. He's never been elected, but he yields great power through Trump and the Trump syndicate. So whether it's Saudi Arabia, Israel, the Rothschilds, this guy is a mover and shaker. He is a primary player in all of this. So we have a lot to look into, but what they're going to do with this island off of Albania beyond luxury resort and getting special permits and permissions. So just want to make sure. Kushner to J.D. Vance, an ex-Trump staffer, says Vance is being set up as the fall guy for the Iran deal. And I think that is true. And I think Trump is leaning more towards his push and endorsement for Rubio. But so much for negotiations, ceasefire, and peace deal, and the Strait of Hormuz being open, when it was always open until Trump manufactured, created a war at the behest of Israel and his partnership with Israel and Bibi. So now we're in a hot war. We're talking after Independence Day. We're talking in the July 10th onward that everything has collapsed in terms of progress being made to end this Trump-Israel war. And the Iranian people, through the procession and the funeral of their leader, they are burning and bludgeoning in effigy Trump. And now there's security concerns for Trump. And where did the security concerns come from? Israel. Israel shared so-called intelligence suggesting Iran was considering killing Trump, and this was the Wall Street Journal. Now remember, I mentioned the Times of Israel says U.S. bracing for prolonged Iran escalation of the war, no current push for Israel's involvement, so it will be our soldiers, our munitions, and we put everything on the line that benefits Israel most, Israel first. So great job, Trump. Now, remember, the strait was never closed until Trump created this war with Iran. And now they can use this as leverage. They can use this as a bullying tactic at any time from now and forevermore. So there are security concerns for Qatari 1 or Qatar 1 and Trump's gift from Qatar, and that he had to resort to switching planes back to the old original Air Force One that's much more secure, and Secret Service forced him to do that. And now we're learning, not only from Israel, but there are legitimate threats against Trump and could be possible assassination attempts. So this thing has really escalated. This is really heated up. I mean, this is a hot war, and it is regrettable and certainly could have been avoidable, but this is all due to Trump and his allegiance to the state of Israel, and that even though Trump says he calls the shots, there's no evidence that he calls the shots. And this is all beneficial for Israel and not the United States. And matter of fact, we have spent so many billions of dollars, besides lives lost, an enormous amount of injuries, destruction to our bases, and energy prices, food prices, the economy, inflation, and our relations with our allies are in tatters because of this war and because of Trump's irrational and erratic behavior and treatment of our allies. Now, Trump said about this Air Force One switch, it was just a matter of misdirection. No, it was security concerns, serious security concerns. So a lot to think about, a lot going on. We're going to continue delving deeper, but most important to me is trying to stick to the facts as we know them, be as truthful as possible. And I will examine all sources, regardless of affiliation, if the facts seemingly align with the truth. And I've always said that you should be the decider and the discerner, that I want to influence you in terms of consuming what I have to share with you, but you process that and you make the best decisions based on what you believe to be true. And in closing, I do want to thank Candace Owens for that reel that I watched that showed Jared Kushner discussing his venture that was initiated or instigated by his association with Nathan Rothschild and this Albanian island and their luxury investment project. So she's under tremendous scrutiny and attack for trying to get to the bottom of one of her best friends that was executed publicly, Charlie Kirk, unlike Turning Point USA, unlike the Trump administration, unlike Fox News that want to stick to the official controlled narrative rather than saying, let's open our minds, let's review all the evidence, let's follow every lead. It was all shut down. And what did Tucker Carlson say? Trump shut down the investigation. So Kash-in Patel backed off, Joe Kent backed off, and all federal agencies backed away. But there's just so much more in terms of inconsistencies and cover-up and collusion and conspiracy that we will continue to share and address. But that's what we do here at Truth Matters. Well, just to give you some inside scoop here, I had two issues with the final segment. One was my file disappeared, and inexplicably, And secondly, when I finalized the recording, it had a metallic sound to it. It's a little tinny, if you will. And, I had some Audacity noise removals and enhancers. And anyway, it's listenable, but I try to be more of a polished professional. The other thing is when I'm recording, sometimes I'm not quite sure how long I need to go. And so there was some extra time. So I'm going to fill that with a little bit more information. And what I'm finding is that one of the latest reports is the White House is considering a plan to add permanent fencing on Pennsylvania Avenue to bolster security. Now, I do realize that, there are seemingly assassination plots, and I can't blame Trump completely, but we don't want to be in Fortress America, and we don't want a complete security state. Also, Kash-in Patel was wanting to cash in with another trip to his girlfriend's amateur hour singing, her apparently at some event in the Chicago area. And he was back into the White House because he's having too many of these personal private trips and he's cashing in. And so he may be on his last legs and boot it to the curb. And so he can booze it up on his own dime. The HS investigators are weighing criminal referral for Corey Lewandowski in connection with his girlfriend, Kristi Noem, that was also fired. She is now going to divorce her cross-dressing husband. So you just can't make this stuff up. I mean, we are dealing, and I keep calling it an insane asylum. I mean, it is bonkers and just absolute circus, and a reality series couldn't make this stuff up. It's just that bizarre. And Trump doesn't like the word weird, but he's weird. This administration's weird. These characters are weird. It is weirdo land. So on that note, I'm going to wish you a great week. Thanks for tuning into this episode, this edition. And I want to thank all our stations and our podcast platforms, TalkStream Live, of course, K-Star Talk Radio, our streaming flagship. And again, thank you so much for your listenership. Share these programs with others. We'll keep trying to bring you the truth the only way I know. Till we meet again, have a great week.